don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
We are headed into the Michigan Trapping Convention right now. Let's see what all we can find out.
I mean, you probably could still, if
True.
you got your...
I told him when he said that, I said, yeah, but look.
Yeah.
Like, say I'm just going to have a cubby here. We'll say this is my cubby. And then you got the road going by. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look down here. And I'm going to look behind me. And I'm going to look and see where I can position this to get the most effect out of the flags that I'm going to hang. And I'm going to go right out in front. And the thing is I want wherever that cat is going to come from, what I want is that cat to come to this flag. And when he comes to this flag, then he looks at and sees that set, and he walks from here to there. So I don't want this a half mile away, and I don't want it right on my set. I want it positioned to get the best visual, and then him come to this and go to that. And that, a lot of this stuff, you'll learn this is it's monkey see, monkey do. I didn't come up with this. Albert Simpson come up with the system I'll show you. Clint Locklear, I got it from him about putting the flag out in front and then go to your set. He picked that up. He probably picked that up from Leon Smith or somebody else. And that's the thing is we all learn and help each other and teach each other, and it makes us better. I mean, I didn't come up with all this stuff. I learned it from people that were better than me, and I wanted to be better. So hopefully to help some of you. So, very simple to make. Just a piece of re-rod, about that long. Piece of PVC pipe, you just drill a hole. You can put a cotter pin in there, or you can use trapping wire. And all you're going to do is just like so. Because the thing is, let's say there's like an apple tree hanging or a balsam tree. You hang a feather on there, every time you come back, that's going to be wrapped up in there. It's not going to be doing anything. And you'll be unwrapping it. So, this is off of Weather Vane down to Iowa. You can buy quite a few of these at auction and stuff. I don't know, Michigan, but we also take like a piece of 9-gauge wire, and you can do the same thing. Just bend it on the end. And I mean, you'll come there, and I mean, you can see, I mean, it just, that wings just move and move and move and move and move. And that's what you want, is you want just something flittering, and the other thing we tie on them is we got these lights, and they got a little thing for the line on the end, on the back where you put the fishing line. And you can hang some up here and hang them down. There's probably a better way, but this, until I find that way, I'm just do it to try and muddle my way through. But what I believe is, I believe them cats have a curiosity. I think it's a very short window, and I think that if this is all, you just take that cat trap, set it there, I think that they can burn up a lot of that curiosity, and they know what's on the inside of that cage. And if they don't want it, and they've already figured it all out, they're gone. There's no reason to walk up into something they're unaware of. We cover, when we go up to a spot, my first job is to start gathering the brush. And Sarah will go in and she will take and sift dirt, so they're not walking on that metal. And because I mean, there's nothing out there that they walk on metal. So not that they're scared of it. It's in my head and Sarah's head, not necessarily the truth. But then we start covering it all up. We'll hang a feather back here, We'll put bait and lure back down in there. And when you're going to buy cage traps, it's nicer to have them with the bait door on the back, especially when you're trying to hang stuff in the back of it. You know, so if you're going to pick one out, you know, having a bait door is a big thing. The thing is a lot of them, you know, have a clip. You want to make sure that's clipped. There's a reason I know that you want to make sure it's clipped, because you'll come there and the door will be open. Not that that would ever happen to me, but you know, so a bait door is very important. We cover the whole thing up, cover the back up so that they can't see anything. So if they want it, they have to go into the front of that. And you know, we'll always, you know, even if they're, I'm figuring the 3-foot rule doesn't, I don't apply that to the live traps. I want the, you know, them to be all curiosity up with the feathers. We'll put feathers all the way back in. You know, I mean, basically, you know, we'll hang the feather in the back. We'll put the lights hanging in the back. Put them on the ground. Then I put tons of bait and lure in there. You know, the good thing about using the cages, the time of year, a lot of times if it's cold, you don't have the coon. If it warms up, you have the coon, which is good if they go to a $15 average. If they're where nobody wants them, not a good deal, you know. So, but the thing is when you catch a cat in a live trap, there's something different about it. I don't know, I can't, the closest I can come is, you know, when you catch a beaver and you pull it through the ice, the different feeling you have pulling it through the ice than you did just pulling it out of the open water. That's the difference. It's just cool. I mean, you pull up there, the cat's, you know, jiggling the cage. You can't really see him yet. And the first thing you see is look through the door, and there's a cat looking back there. Our thing is we've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Sarah's learned a lot. We've used a lot of cameras. We usually run about 20 cameras because I like to see what's going on, and I always want to learn. I want to be better. I want to understand the animals better. You know, and what'll happen is a lot of times them cats will come up, and for some reason, I don't know why, they sit right on that corner, right there. A lot of times they will touch that right in that area, and they'll urinate right there, like they're marking it, and walk off. You know, we put a lot more cameras, percentage-wise, on cages than we do anything else, because we got fewer cages than we got anything else. You know, I mean, we're running 500 snares, got 100 footholds out, and 12, you know, cage traps. So, you know, they tend to get more percentage-wise, and so we got more information about what's going on. But you know, a lot of times what I'll do is we'll set that up, and then I'll go and figure where I think they're going to stand, and I'll put in a blind set using that as my bait. You know, so when I'm setting that up, I'm kind of thinking where I'm putting it, where I'm figuring if I put it there, where's that cat going to sit? You know, where's he going to stand? Because traditionally they go up to the corner, but that ain't always true. You know, I mean, every time. So I'm looking like maybe there's a trail coming through, and I'll blind set that trail. So my point of it is, you know, if you do set these out, think about where that cat might be standing. If you don't go in there, you don't put another set, you know, right in there. So because you know, sometimes you hit it right, and you know, that might be the 40-pounder, you know, or bigger. So probably not, but
How do you dispatch?
in that,
Yeah.
well, it's a good thing you asked though. If you got a catch-all if you got a death ray, which is death ray, Kendall Obermeyer makes them. They're really good. They're expensive. The cables, you know, Tiki used to use them, mess up. But the death ray works the best because it'll go in and out of any of them. When they design these things, sometimes the catch-all pole, the red thing on it, where the loop comes out, will go through, and sometimes they won't. So, you know, test it beforehand to see. Because on the bait jar, or on the bait door, you're never going to be able to dispatch at that, because they'll go to this end, and then it doesn't, your pole, you have to break your pole in half. So worst case scenario, face to face.
You gotta try to get one. So they're for muskrat trapping, so like when you set it, This is over here. No, it's over here. And then it sets with this little spring when you put this down. So when they put their foot in it, it flips over and pushes their leg over to extend their leg fully. Or else they like to try to like chew off their leg.
Really?
So it's like a little added addition. So for people who can't put it in water where they can drown, it pushes their leg all the way over. So their face is too far away because their leg's extended so they can't reach it.
My sister-in-law, when she passed away, but yet she did this kind of work too.
Yeah, these guys are interesting.
Huh?
These are like the ancient DP traps.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that they would stick their hand in there and then it'll collapse like that, which seems like it catches their rest really well, but I think it would be pretty tough.
Somebody else's lure, you throw every bottle of lure at them, put every visual, they're just something's going to walk by. That's just the way God set it up, that you're not going to catch them all. So what I'm going to do is just show you some of the stuff that I do to try and cut that down as much as possible, but it's still going to happen no matter what you do. And some of the stuff, you know, may help, some of it may not help get them in there, but trapping is all about mental, and if you mentally believe it, you're always going to be better off if you believe in what you're doing rather than not. So with bobcats, a lot of it is the curiosity, to get them, to catch their curiosity and get them from point A to come to point B, and even sometimes to point C. And we'll be talking about that with the flagging and stuff like that. But the thing is you got to have it where you catch their curiosity and bring it from this point to get them to here, to here, to here. And if you lose that curiosity in between, because you only have them for a split second, you know. I mean, you figure bobcats and house cats are different, but a lot of them have a lot of similarities on, you know, if you take like a house cat, sometimes you play, you know, take your hand, go like this, you know, and they'll swat and they'll play. Other times they jump on you and maul your hand, you know. I mean, and sometimes they're not interested in it at all, and there's nothing you can do to make them. And that's the same way with a bobcat, is whatever that mood is when they're going by, you know, because they don't have to take a handout. They're like an otter, they're a killer. They don't have to take a handout. Will they take one? Yeah, but they don't have to. You know, so that's what we're trying to do is get on that curiosity, get them up to your set, then use, you know, multiple different types of lures to get them to pop in there. So a lot of the locations, you know, that I'm setting is what I'm looking for as far as locations that I'm going to set for cats. And it's going to vary throughout the state, you know, but you know, if you're trapping more farm ground, it's going to be more, you know, like a woods line along of a creek, and that's what we trap a lot down when we're trapping an Iowa farm ground, which resembles, you know, like kind of like the thumb area, you know, along the creeks where you got some trees and cover, you know, that's where they're going to be a lot of times. Well, but the thing is, they'll cut out into the fields to be out there hunting and stuff and cut across, but it's hard to target them out there in some 80-acre field. I mean, where are they going to cut through? You don't know. So what we're trying to do is, even though they could be anywhere, is get them where they're, you know, the best cover is, because that's generally where you're going to, you know, find the biggest majority of cats is in tight cover. And when I'm talking about tight cover, when you look down through, if you can go like this and you can see through it, that's not tight cover. You want it where it's, you know, like, I call it a shin tangled mess when I'm walking through there. So, you know, that's basically, if you look at that and you think that is a shit tangled mess he's talking about, that's what I'm talking about. Because different times when we were trapping federal ground, if I would look through there and I could see, I wouldn't catch nothing. And, you know, I started setting that heavier cover, and then we started picking up gray fox, you know, when we had gray fox or bobcats, you know, stuff like that, and that tighter cover. So that's really what you're looking for. But the type of sets I'm looking for to put in them locations is like old logging roads, you know, especially like if one lane is covered up and the other lane is going straight like this, you know, I'm looking for something like that where, you know, it's not being used all the time. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll walk down there and I'm looking for a point. And what I want is when I'm walking down there, either way, is that road will go wide. And they're not easy to find, them locations, but they are out there. And the thing is, if I can find that, what I'm gonna do is go up, like I got one road coming this way, one road coming this way, and then it goes off like this into one road. And so here's our point. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set right on the tip of that point because it works good for them coming that way or that way. And it doesn't matter if it's cats, coyotes, whatever you're setting for, them points are always gonna be key. And once you find these type of spots, they're really good. You know, as long as they're there, it's gonna be a good spot. So it's worth looking for them. But when they're running down that road, what they're doing is they're deciding whether they're gonna go left or right. Instead, you're putting their concentration right on this point, and I always put something flashy on that point for them, so that gives them something visual coming down that road. If I'm setting for bobcats, it's going to be really flashy, and we'll talk about that. But you know, if you're going to set for coyotes, you know, you're going to go more with like say, you know, like a trench set flashy, not like feather flashy. So we got this road, and this is going to hold true on any spots you put. What I do is a lot of times is I'll put like a walkthrough set, and what you want to do, the reason I like these spots is because you got a road here, I want to stand on the point, I'm going to go and take something like this, where I put dirt there. A lot of times I'll go, you know, grab weeds and stuff like that. You know, I'll show you that set. So I'll put them here, here, and roads here, roads here. And what I'll do is I'll go all the way out to the road. I always got the tiling spade, and that's about how wide I'm going to have my walkthrough. It's just like that, and then I'll twist it around to the other side. So basically, when they're coming down that road, you're giving them the walkthrough, you know, to come through. And what I have done in the past is like everybody, I would put my walkthrough set here, but I'm only going to make it, like when I kneel down to make the set, I'm only going to put as far as I can reach. You know, the thing is you want to make it longer, extend it out to something to where they're traveling. So then they'll, you know, cut up in there, because you can have all the flash, you can have all the lures, you can have all the long call, but every single thing you do to entice them up into your set makes a difference. And I'll tell you about one set I had like that. My thing is I'm not a good, where I go initially set up a location to put the best set in. And that's the thing is I'm sure a lot of you are like that. I don't go put the best set in, and a lot of times I have to readjust to what's going on. And we'd put a camera up on this one set, and the cat would walk by, and you see him walk by again. But every time I would see that, I would go back there and change that set so that when he came by, because when he came by, he's not like a coyote or, you know, he's just being a coyote. That cat is going to keep, once he knows it's there and he's not interested in it, he's not interested in it. And so even if it's another cat, I always change that set up, you know, to something else. Like if I had a flat set here with flashy stuff, I'm going to change something about it, or hang something, or do something different to make that where that cat sees something different, and maybe I can pique his curiosity. And you know, and some of it is getting inside my own head, but it gives me confidence to do that. And I've had that where it goes and, you know, I do that stuff, and then you end up catching the cat. It's like in this spot, the cat goes and he goes in. Finally, I go and I put the walkthrough set, and I did it to the road, and I bring it out. I didn't go all the way to the other road, which it was a bigger point. And the thing is that cat came and turned up the thing, up the little trail I made, and you think I'm going to tell you that I caught the cat? No, I didn't. He stepped right over my set. But he come down that trail, But the thing is, I didn't extend it all the way out. He hit the end and turned around and went back, you know, and then I caught the cat. And he happened to get in the way, out of the trap. It was an offset and it was a back foot catch, but, you know, as a lure maker, I was a complete success. As a trapper, I was a complete failure, but, yeah, I'll take 50-50 every time, you know, so. But the thing is with cats is you just got to keep in mind, and I have to do this, is you're not coyote trapping. A lot of the locations will be the same where they're doing the traveling, hunting, and stuff like that, but you're not trapping coyotes. Coyotes, you know, a lot of times what you want to do is make a big mess and make it look like something like a bomb went off or nothing went off. With a cat, you always want it to be a bomb went off, unless you're blind setting, and we'll talk about that. But you know, it's like my good friend Clint Locklear. He's, you know, he would tell everybody, when you get done with your cat set, if it didn't look like a 3-year-old had just created it after going to Dollar General in the party section, you did it wrong, you know. And that's what you want it to look like, you know, like just a bomb went off with a 3-year-old, you know. So that's kind of the cat mentality. And the thing is in Michigan, you know, I mean, like zone 2 or whatever, you only can catch one cat. But the thing is I've struggled more catching one cat, going out with that attitude that I'm just going to catch one cat, than what I have to go catch a lot of cats. And it's just because I'm like, I only got to catch one cat. I'm just going to go out and do this. You know, I've really struggled at times having that mentality. So now, like when I'm trapping Michigan cats, I'm going out there like I'm going to try and catch 100 of them. You know, because my thing is I don't want to go out there and catch one 10-pound female the last day of season. You know, I'm going out there and I want to try and catch. My goal has always been in Michigan to catch a 40-pound cat. I've never caught a 40-pounder. I've seen other people catch them. That's like my white whale. You know, and so, you know, I don't, you know, my thing is I always catch like a 33, 34-pound cat, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just going to keep this one. So I never make it to the end, but I do have it a lot of times where, you know, the second or third day of season, you know, I'll have three or four cats, and we go and look and, you know, and decide which one we want to take and turn the other ones loose, you know. And that's a lot better than the last day having to, you know, well, do I kill this 10-pound female or do I just, you know, not do it, you know? You're all going to kill that 10-pound female, ain't you? Yeah, I don't blame you. I would too. I am. But one of the problems we've had in the past in Michigan with the cats is, you know, when we had the 10-day season, you know, it's longer now, but when we had the 10-day season, if that bobcat, big 40-pound male, puts his footprint down today and he goes on his route, a lot of times he's not going to come back there by the time the end of that season. So if he made a print here today, you're not ever going to have a shot at that cat. But what I started doing is I would go and take beaver carcasses, put them underneath like balsam trees, tie them off or wire them, because they'll go drag them off and you won't know where they're at.
Interesting.
Like if you put a dried rat against this, then it gives you the sizes. And then coon would be next, just because coon's bigger than rat. If you had a rat this big, that's pretty good.
To talk about muskrats and mink. That's what I want to talk about, right? Obviously everybody knows, if you haven't heard, mink prices are really good. They held really well last year, averaging $44 up to $50, depending on the auction or the sale or whatever. So mink prices were really good. But the really cool thing about it was the muskrats finally had 100% clearance at fur harvesters. So that was really, really, really good. And then with what's happened to the wild mink, or excuse me, the ranch mink market, the expectation is rats should follow along really well. It should be up, but we'll see, right? It's obviously a gamble and you never know. But I use our products, right? And so I demonstrate how, and that's what I trap with. That's all I trap with anymore is our stuff. So keep that in mind, right? I don't care if you use our stuff or somebody else's stuff that does a similar thing, as long as you're out there trapping. It doesn't matter to me, right? I appreciate the business, but just get out there and trap and have fun. That's really the moral of the story. But for those that don't know, this is what I generally use. So when I'm rat trapping and mink trapping, there's different ways that I'm trapping, right? So I'm either trapping out of a kayak. So I switched from a canoe to a kayak. And I really, really like the kayak trapping. It's a lot of fun. So I'm either in a kayak, early season, or I'm grabbing a pack and I'm walking up the creeks, the rivers, and I'm setting. Or I'm setting out of my truck, right? Depending on what state I'm in, what the weather condition is, that body of water, etc., right? So kind of 3 different styles of trapping, right? But for the most part, you know, I've got some sort of carrying device, whether I'm in my kayak or truck or whatever. If I'm in my kayak, I really like milk crates. I can stack a lot in the milk crates. They're square. They fit in the kayak really nice, and they got all kinds of holes and stuff. You can bungee them down, which makes them real nice. But I use these packs, and let's be real, these packs suck. I mean, they're not good. And the reason I say that is because every time you set them down, you know, they always fall over. Your stuff, and it's always on the bank, right? And then all your stuff ends up in the water. At least mine, I'm very clumsy, so that does happen. But point being, this is one thing I carry. So if you're just getting started, you need something to carry all your gear, right? Soft pack, hard pack, truck, kayak, whatever. When I'm mink trapping, I like to carry. I use smelt a lot, and being from Michigan, smelt is pretty easy to come by. They had a really good smelt run this year, if you didn't know, and so smelt is very available. I'll take smelt and I'll order, you know, 20 dozen or what. It depends on the place, if they're selling by the pound or by the dozen, whatever. And then I'll lay them on cellophane and I'll wrap them up, right, basically into a big burrito, and I'll freeze it. I'll make several of them. And when I go, I'll put that in here, the cellophane and everything, and I'll clip this to my belt as I'm going up and down those creeks and whatever. The thing that's important to me is I want the head facing out. For some reason, whether it's a theory or some sort of, you know, folklore or whatever, but a mink gets into attack mode when they see eyes, right? They want to eat. They want to kill whatever that is. Never talked to a mink, so I really don't know if that's the reason why. But so I like to have the head facing out so you can see the eyes. But smelt to me were awesome. They're nice and oily, and they're easy, right? You don't have to chunk them up or anything. So anyway, so I'll carry something like that. So be mindful of that. And then if I'm mink trapping specifically, this is not the trap. I use a 120 for mink trapping. But this is my universal mink and muskrat trap. This is a single spring 160, and it's got our HAGZ spring clip on it. And what this allows me to do is this allows me to set from the very bottom of the water surface to the top, right? So bottom edge to top edge. And it simply uses that spring clip on the back. It doesn't matter what orientation you put it on the rod, but that allows you to rotate the trap. You can have your triggers sideways, you can have them on the bottom, or you can flip it over and have them on the top if you want, right? So anyway, so that's the trap I use for mink and muskrat. And then the foothold I use a 1.5 bridger. This is what they call their bridger special. There's nothing different about it because it's the only 1.5 that they have. So why is this one special against another one? I don't know, but it is their bridger 1.5. Super little trap. The reason I like it over several of the others, if you're setting a bunch of traps, so let's say you're setting, you know, a big marsh, and you're going to be out there all day long, and you're setting hundreds of traps. Let's say you're setting 150, 250 traps in a day. The levers on this trap are more comfortable after a long day, right, of setting. So that's one reason I like it. It's got a little bit longer levers on it, and it's got like a flat spot before it rounds. It just makes it a little bit nicer to set. I've set Victors, Dukes, and Bridgers in large numbers before, and I prefer the Bridgers the best out of those. It's lighter. So I like the heavier trap because it helps ground that animal. Again, this setup on these rods, same rod, whether I'm using the body grip or the foothold, allows me to go from as low as I want to as high as I want. And as we get going through these sets, you're going to see why I feel that's important, and I'm hopeful that you do too, to make your line more efficient, right? So those are the things that I'm primarily using. There's additional items. When we start getting into baiting, I have a spring clip that I like to use, and that's just simply a little device that goes on that we can put bait on, right? And we can hang it above our foothold trap. So in my pack, the way that I set up is in one side, I carry markers, right? So these are just trail markers. I'll simply flag these, you know, on the nearby cattails. I won't flag exactly right at the set in case I get a raccoon. I don't want that to knock my flagging down in the water and I can't see it, so I flag nearby. The other important fact, or actually let me stick with this setup. So I got flagging, I got my bait holders, and then I got bait. Regardless of what I'm using, I try and keep it consistent, right? This is on, anybody familiar with Molly, the Molly system? M-O-L-L-E, it was a military system. So these are Molly pouches. It's based on the Molly system. These are just dump pouches for ammo. The thing about these is they unbuckle in the back, right? And because of that, I can switch them from this pack over to my milk crates, over to something else. And I can just keep things consistent. So muscle memory, right? So I do that a lot. But beyond that, the one thing that I was going to say is that when I get to running a lot of sets, I don't flag every set because that would just be way too much flagging. I flag an area, right? I used to try and mark everything on a handheld GPS. Got too cumbersome. I used to try it on phone, doesn't work. It's just easier for me personally to flag. When you're in a new marsh or a new body of water, it's easy to get lost, right? It's easy to forget where you put things. So I like to flag. I set all my traps in even numbers, just like if you're coyote trapping, right? I always try and set in at least an even pair. Usually that's 2 sets or 4 sets. If I'm hut trapping, it's 4, but if I'm not hut trapping, it's 2. All right, so early season, early season for me, I'm thinking about huts, right? Huts is the most important thing to me in the early season, and the reason that I feel that way is because of access, right? So I'm just 2.5 hours south of here, down in the Brooklyn area, Irish Hills, and we open November 10th, right? So we really got 4 check days, or 3 check days. Yes, sir.
I purchased a fur harvester booklet at HAGZ here. And this year now the mink, we have 3 zones in Michigan. The mink trapping is the same, but in there for muskrats is statewide, November the 1st till April
That's
the 24th.
statewide?
That's what the rule
Go ahead.
says.
It's been changed over. We got it pushed back. Same as it was last year.
So it's November 10th down in our zone?
Same as the muskrat season opens up. Mink season is not ahead.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
the DNR will probably verify that at the next NRC meeting.
All right.
So there is some confusion going around online about
Right now, at
that.
this
Right?
point in time, but it should be cleared up here probably next week.
So everybody can
That's
expect
what I was.
Muskrat and Minks to be the same as last year as far as season goes.
Same.
Okay. So if you don't know, Bernie's NTA director, National Trapper Association director, representative for Michigan. So
Catching
thanks, Bernie.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay.
So that's good news. So anyway, so November 10th is when we open downstate,
Yeah.
right? In our zone. And the reason why I say huts are what's on my mind down there is because I got 4 days, right, to get in and out, just like you do up here, even up in the north, before the Orange Army really hits, right? The other thing is the ice, right? So when there's huts, it's generally, right, not all the time, but it's generally still water, right? So it's generally, you're talking about marshes and those sorts of things. So still water, it's not moving. And that's generally going to freeze up faster than your rivers and creeks and those sorts of things, right? So to me, season opener means where's the huts at, right? I want to go where the huts are. And I want to go there and I want to do everything I can do in 3 or 4 days, right? And be out of there. Then, like again, where we're at, it's all private ground, right? It's terrible because it's all private ground, means access is very difficult. So you're limited as to where you can generally go. Whereas when you're up on federal ground or state ground or whatever, you generally have more access, right? I'm usually trapping out of my kayak when I'm trapping muskrat huts. And the most important thing to me is how many traps do I need to take on this body of water, right? Now I fly a drone. I'll fly a drone. I'll count huts. I'll do all that sort of stuff. I don't use it as much the last 2 years, but it's a good tool to use to get a number of huts. For me, it doesn't tell me how many rats are out there per se, but it tells me how many traps to carry, right? For me, I want to target 4 traps per every hut. That's what I do. Right or wrong, that's what I target, right? It doesn't mean all 4 traps are going to go on the hut itself, but that's how many I'm carrying, right? I may have to make 2 or 3 trips, but I'm thinking 4 traps per hut that I see. I'm talking push-ups or anything like that. I'm just talking huts, right? So, where do those? So that's why I start talking about even numbers, right? This is where it kind of starts coming into play. So in the early season like this, my trap of choice is the foothold trap, right? So I use a foothold trap probably 75, 80% of the time, maybe more. And the reason being, it gives me a little bit more versatility. It's faster for me than the body grip in the early season, right? The way that I use them is simple. So if this is our hut, and this is actually a really good example. In Michigan, the law says you cannot molest a hut, right? Does anybody really know what that means?
Can't tear it open.
Can't tear it open?
Can't tear it open.
So does that mean I can't go all the way into the cavity?
I don't know. It's a gray area.
Okay. Or does that mean I can't just move duff to the side?
Or flip it with a pitchfork.
Right?
Okay.
So again, very, very, very gray and vague, right, as far as what molesting is. Which, that sounded weird. All right, but that's the law, okay? So, to me, when we start talking about that, now other states you can go right inside, you can set the cavity, etc., right? Michigan, you cannot. So if you get a conservation officer out there who's, high on the horse, he may give you a ticket for what you think is legal. So I'm going to show you what I believe is the full legal way of setting a hut, right? Take it for what you want, right? And then go from there and adjust accordingly. Every hut has at least one area on it that's got let's call it a crawl out or a crawl up or whatever you want to call it, right? Which is an area to duff up, right? And make that hut. There's always one of those, okay? Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's a runway all around the bottom, right? Those are the first spots that I set, right? So if there's 2 of those crawl ups, that's 2 traps of the 4 I'm setting, right? So I'm just trying to get, I'm not going to let you fully into my head because it'd scare the shit out of you, but I'm going to give you an example of where I come up with those 4, right? So typically, that crawl up typically will have a spot where I can place my trap, right? Bingo, bango, I get him, crawling in, crawling out. That's all I needed to do to catch that first muskrat, right? But like I said, this is a very good example. Did I just molest that hut right there? I have no idea, to be honest with you. I don't know. A very good example is the way this hut is constructed here. If I can't place it on that crawl out, this is when what I call a top edge comes into play. And all I'm simply going to do is lower my trap right below that water surface and get him where he's coming on and off of that crawler. It's that simple. So I went from using it as a stake, if I could stretch out, to actually a stabilizer, if I could put it right there, right? And a stake. Makes sense? All right. So the way that works is when you catch the muskrat, let me go up a little bit. When you catch the muskrat, what's going to happen is that's going to fire, the muskrat comes out, and he drowns. If you get big muskrats that want to swim, and this is why I like this bridger because it's heavier, and you'll also notice I got about 30 inches of chain. But what happens is as you get those bigger muskrats, a lot of times they'll want to swim. The bracket itself, it'll only go up and down when it's perfectly 90 degrees to the rod. So as that rat's out there swimming, you'll watch that go down and down and down, right? And that's going to act as a vertical drowner, right? And it's going to help pull it under. So that's one set that we're using. The other set, so I'm always trying to get 2 on the hut. The other set is really just like this, but I'm on the back side, right? I like to go on the back side. What's the percentage? Who can tell me what the percentage of muskrats that work the hut are out of that family group? Hell, I don't know either. I was hoping somebody did. So I don't know, right? But I know not all of them work that hut, right? I know they all don't. But they're all moving at some point. So what I like to do is typically on the back side of the hut, and this is set number 2, if there's not another push-up or crawl-out, I'll basically do the same thing I did on that crawl-out, and that is a top edge set. But this becomes, one of these years I'll have to actually track it. I'm going to put that trap right up against the hut, and I'm going to grab some muck, and I'm going to smack it right against the hut. That's it, right? That's it. Now, not every rat is coming on that front side and crawling up and pushing. But if they're out swimming around and they smell that fresh mud, damn sure they're investigating, right? They're swimming around that hut, right? So that's set number 2. Set number 3, I may or may not use a body grip, but you get these cattails, right? Or you got runs, you know, you'll see the runs. Maybe I'll drop a run set in, or maybe I'll drop a top edge in. Again, every situation's a little bit different. But if I'm gonna do a top edge, I'm looking for where's the channel that they're going, right? And this is a perfect one right here. If I can see that they're going back up in there and chewing, I'll drop a rod beside there. And I like my triggers on the bottom. And I'll do just like that, right? I'll guard that. I'll have the water halfway up, right? And I'll guard that channel, right? That'll be set number 3. Again, we're trying to get this done in just a couple days before the Orange Army comes, right? So that's set number 3. Or maybe it was set number 4. Another set that I'll use when we're hut trapping, if I don't find a good channel, but maybe I find a feed bed or a feed pad. Does anybody not know what a feed pad is? Okay, so we all know. When I find that, and generally in the early season, what we're talking about, and where this becomes important is really early season. So let's say, you know, you got your cattails here, you got a little feed pad there. You know, all right, muskrats are chewing right there. That's where they're coming. Foothold. I'll place a foothold right on that feed pad to catch that rat. Am I catching the rat that was doing the push-up? I don't know. Or the crawl-up? I don't know. But again, remember, I'm setting in 4s. Doesn't matter, right? Trying to take as many as I can as quick as I can. The problem with this in the early season, like on the opener, is that feed pad's normally thin, right? So you end up setting it, by the time you get back to your kayak, your truck, whatever, your trap is sunk out of the way, right? Because that feed pad wasn't buoyant enough to hold that trap. So what I like to do is I like to run a rod right through that feed pad, and then again, top edge set it, right? So we're going to top edge. We're going to put the trap just below the water surface, get those chewings over the trap, and that's it, right? Those are really the 4 sets that I'm doing, right? If I don't see a good travel way, or if I don't see a good feed pad, a 5th set Anybody ever have an apple that just stayed white like this all the time? You can get them on Amazon. Alright. So, little apple slice. Right? I like them about 10 inches above the water, 12 inches, depending on what's around it. If there's structure, whatever they can stand on, I try and get up high. You can add bait in the early season if you want to. I don't do it a lot. Probably 10% of my sets have bait in the early season. Reason being, quick story. I dug a pond. Had a house, dug a pond. And my dad didn't like me for this, but I did it anyways. My dad's house, 20 miles away. I cruise over there. I'm picking off all his cattails, right? I'm picking them. Like, what are you doing with my cattails? Oh, nothing. I was spreading them throughout my pond, right? He's like, what in the heck are you doing that for? And anyways, I did it because I was wanting to build muskrat habitat so I could learn about them. I don't know why, muskrats to me were just really cool. So I had a little hill I could sit on and I could watch, and I'd watch these muskrats all the time swimming out of my pond. Took about 2 years to get them in there. The next summer, I placed, I want to say 7 trail cameras in that pond, and I had sets all over it. This is July, and I had apples, I had carrots, I had parsnips, I had all. What I would see is a muskrat swim right here and keep on going. And then he'd come back with a face full of beans or grass chewings or saplings, swim right back by. And he'd go right down into his bank dam. Like, son of a bitch. I couldn't get him to stop for nothing. Anybody know why that muskrat wouldn't stop?
Not natural to him.
There you go. Right? At least that's the theory.
Yep.
Right? So it's not natural. They're pre-programmed. Right? They are a prey animal. Everybody wants to eat them. Right? That's dead rat swimming. You know? I mean, he's gonna die soon. So he wants to be able to, they're an escape artist. They want to be able to escape. Right? Theory, again, just like the mink, haven't never talked to a muskrat, but I believe if I could, he would say we're right. One, it's after a natural food source that they're pre-programmed to, and two, I was setting these sets all over, whether it be out in the open water or up into where there's cover. Couldn't get them to stop. Theory is early season. one, there's too much fresh food source for them. So as the food source starts to deplete, starts to rot out, etc., your catch rate on a baited set will go up, right? So keep that in mind if you're having trouble catching them on a baited set, right? The other thing is where you set. I was always a bow hunter, and I would sit up in my tree right on the edge of a river on Wolf Creek. You probably know where it's at.
I do.
I'd sit up on the edge of Wolf Creek, and I'd watch the rats swim up and down right in the middle of Wolf Creek. And when I started trapping, I'd set baited sets right in the middle of that creek where they were swimming. I couldn't get them to stop. I couldn't catch none. I get like one every 2 weeks. Like, I really suck. And so, anyways, fast forward, trying different things. When I started setting up near the brush or near the grassy overhangs or the cattails or the ice shelves or whatever, my catch rate started going way high, way high. Again, it's later season, but it's also where they have an escape route, right? So be mindful of where you're setting your baited sets. Will you catch them in the open? Yes. Will you catch more in the structure? Absolutely, right? So get up in the structure. So those are my 4 sets that I'm going to use during that hut season, if you will. Any questions on those? Some areas that I really like to trap. One's down in Indiana. One actually right by the house, a river that you can walk on. It's just like this. There is no holes in it. It's solid. It's hard ground. Put your waders on, and water goes up to here, you know, or your hippers on, water's up to here. It's perfect, man. It's like walking on your garage floor. But what makes it ideal is the habitat. So it's got corn, it's got beans, and it's got grassy overhangs, right? When I see that anymore, I start getting excited. Just like if you're a whitetail hunter driving through Iowa, right? You start getting excited when you see certain terrain conditions. When I see those grassy overhangs in the middle of those cornfields, in the middle of bean fields, I get excited. Walk up and down those. What are we looking for when we walk up and down those? Anybody know what we're looking for? Give me an idea.
Feeding.
Huh?
Feeding.
Feeding. So feed pads is one thing that we're looking for.
Well, there's usually a tunnel underneath all that grass.
Runways, tunnels, absolutely. We're looking for anything that's different than everything else, right? So start thinking about that. What's different? Just start looking for what's different. What I like to look for, obviously, if you can find droppings, crawl outs, that sort of stuff is one thing. Where you see those little crawl outs, you know, they're as wide as your hand, little big crawl outs. And then right here, you'll see some bare ground. It might only be that big, especially if they just started it this morning. Might be that big, right? And if you start seeing the white roots sticking up out of the dirt, you're gonna get that rat. But you'll start seeing little bare spots, right, with a little bitty crawl out. Those are dynamite. The reason I like them is because they're fast and they're easy. Just like on this. None of this changes, by the way. This is all rinse and repeat, just a different scenario. This, if I can set my trap there, I'm going to do it. If it drops off too deep and I'm going to be 2 inches below the water surface, I'm top edging, right? So again, lower your trap, put it right in that runway, pick up your rat tomorrow, right? It's really that simple. I love that set. Set number 1, or that could be set number 2. When I'm working these waterways, I'm setting in pairs, just like everything else, but I'm usually not setting in 4s, right? I'm usually setting in 2s.
What's the bare spot for?
That's where they're chewing at your food. So they'll do that. So you'll see that. That's a dynamite spot. When I'm working these, like I don't know if you wouldn't obviously be able to see that side. But let's pretend that down here is the water surface and this is a grassy overhang, right? Mink love running those. Mink absolutely love running those. And what I like looking for, I like setting behind them if I can, right, with either a foothold or a body grip. but I really like setting what I call the window, right? So in those grassy overhangs, you'll see where it kind of opens up just a little bit, right? And you look in there and something's been going in and out of there, right? Little window. It'll be narrow. It'll be 4 inches, 5 inches. I like those because because when you're running a long line, it's quick. I can see. I don't have to dig behind anything. I just keep on moving, right? What I like to do on those is the same sort of thing. So let's pretend the grassy overhang. You got water. I like to plant my trap, my body grip in that window, and take those grasses and just put it on each side of that body grip to blend it in. You can't even see it. I mean, that is dynamite for picking up mink. Where you pick up mink, or muskrats, you're picking up mink, right? And with the mink prices high, I can catch that $4 muskrat and that $50 mink, right? Why not, you know? And they're just kind of that bonus item when you catch them, you know? Just a lot of fun. You know, 20% foothold. I only use the foothold because of nostalgia, right? I still like trapping muskrats under the ice. So I used to use footholds, so I still do it from time to time. But body grip's the way to go. And the reason why is because I found how I can make them universal for under ice rats and top of the ice mink. How many people have walked a bog or a marsh where there's huts and have seen mink tracks out there? Right?
Maybe all everything together.
Absolutely. They go from that hut to that hut to that hut to that hut, right? They bounce hut to hut. And they'll do it repeatedly, right? You'll have runs out there, right on the ice. Especially if you get 6 inches of snow on that ice, if it's fresh, you'll have runs in it, right? So to me, I want to trap that mink when I'm trapping that muskrat, when I'm already carrying the same crap out on the ice, right? So let's talk about that. So my setup that I prefer anymore, again, it's the same single spring RBG. If you've ever trapped muskrats under the ice with a 110 and have misses, raise your hand. Every single person has, right? Doesn't mean anything other than they had a miss, but did you kill the rat? You know, did you kill the rat or just miss the rat? You have no idea. I have seen with my own 2 eyes where I've had a 110 fire, have a miss, but a dead rat under the ice. The dead rat wouldn't answer me, but I asked him, how'd you die? Right? My theory is I hit it on the bridge of the nose or on the head, whatever. Just wasn't enough to catch it in the jaws. So that happens a lot. Happens to a lot of people a lot, right? Whether you actually hit it and kill it or just totally miss it, who knows, right? But fact is, a 110, you will have misses under the ice. No doubt about it. You'll have them with any trap at some point in time. But the game is all about numbers, right? And averages. You want to raise or lower your average, whether you're talking about a catch average or a miss average, right? So, the one thing I highly recommend is going to a 6-inch trap under the ice for muskrats. It definitely helps. So that's one thing. Your kill zone is just bigger. You can't argue it. The other thing that I recommend is putting your triggers not on the bottom, but on the side. Okay? A lot of people will continue to put their triggers on the bottom because they're putting a carrot on the trigger or whatever, and gravity says that's the way it's got to be, right? Is you got to be holding it upwards. Well, if you hold it on the side, you get an advantage. Let me tell you why. Theory, again, you can agree or disagree. So when we got our triggers on the bottom, right? Little baby muskrat swims up. Muskrat says, I'm going to eat this carrot. Theory is he might put his feet on the jaw, right? He might. Who knows? I don't have underwater cameras that show me this, right? So it's theory. So if he puts his feet on the bottom jaw here and he fires that trap, that jaw is swinging this way, right? where do his feet go? They have to go backwards. Have to. There's no doubt about it. So his feet got to go backwards. So that just tells you, by physics, stuff's moving backwards away from the kill zone, right? It's being pushed back. So again, if you have a 110, you've already got a small kill zone. You're pushing things out of it already, right? So one theory of why it could contribute to a miss. If you put your kill or your triggers on the side, your hinge points on the bottom, so your jaws are closing from the side. So let's just pretend the theory's true that little muskrat puts his little baby muskrat feet on the jaws. When he puts them there and those jaws fire, what do my hands do? Right? They do this. So instead of going backwards, they're doing this, right? You could argue whether that's actually drawing you in or pushing you, or not pushing you one way or the other, but the fact is it's not pushing you back. That's for sure, right? So when you put your triggers on the side and you increase your kill zone, your catch percentage will go up if you're using a 110. I will guarantee you that. Okay? So again, something to think about. So up your trap size a little bit if you're using a 110. All right. So that's the trap of choice for me. And again, we've got the nostalgia. I've got to catch some on a foothold. So as I told you before, this bracket is used to stabilize our trap. And how many knows what the board set is? There you go. Bunch of you. I do too. Used to use it all the time. If you don't know what a board set is, a board set is you'd simply use like a 1x3. Let's pretend this is a 1x3 piece of board. You'd dig a hole in the ice, over a little rectangle. You'd slide it in there. You'd have 2 nails on that board. One you'd hang the jaw of your long spring trap on. The second nail was right above your jaw, and you'd put your carrot on, or apple, or parsnip, whatever, right? And you'd slide that in till it was, 4 inches under the ice or whatever, your bait. That was the board set, right? Everybody got used to it. It's on a 45-degree angle. It's got to be that way, right? Just like the beaver drowner guys that use rebar, they say, oh, it's got to be a 10-foot piece of rebar, right? Same thing. It's just paradigm, right? It's what people have gotten used to over the years, and so it had to be that number or that way. Well, I had a funny story. I had one of our customers sent me an email and said, Jeff, I bought some of your stuff and I can't get my trap to sit level. I said, all right, well, what are you using? He said, Bridger 1.5, just like you use. I said, okay. I said, I don't know why it ain't sitting level. Send me a picture. So he sent me a picture. Sends me a picture. And he is absolutely right. That's not level, right? But he had the bracket upside down. So I said, sir, flip the bracket over. Your trap will sit level, no problem. Away you go. Thank you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, that was it. That worked great. Fast forward to muskrat season, and I'm drilling holes through the ice to set under ice. And like, son of a bitch, that's a 45-degree angle that we used to use when we were under ice trapping with boards, right? So I started playing with it, and I started setting, under the ice with this foothold, catching rats, just like I did on the board sets, right? I then said, well, is it that 45 or does it matter? So I started testing with the trap level, and just under the ice. No, I couldn't tell the difference. Maybe someone else can, but I couldn't tell the difference. So to me, it didn't matter if the trap was flat or on an angle. But if you're used to using boards and you want to switch over to fiberglass, burn the wood. Times are tough. Get some BTUs out of it. And fiberglass will make you happy.
Sewing, I think that it's best to just have one strand, so that way if you mess up, you can just pull your needle off and re-thread it versus having to cut the threads and totally start over. And My trick for getting a good knot is to just hold the needle in one hand, hold your thread in between your pointer finger and your thumb, and wrap it around the needle a few times. I don't even count how many times, just however I feel like doing. And then you grab that in between your fingers and pull it down. And that will make a pretty good sized knot. And
How long do they make it to start with?
you know, usually double the length of your the stitch that you're trying to make is going to be sufficient enough. Like I said, I can cut these, so these are going to be pretty excessive. But I can cut this and keep using it. So what can get hard is like beaver fur, otter fur, bear, anything.
Do you use a different size needle for them?
You know, just whatever you feel comfortable with. But I usually just use the same sizes. So what I use is, like I said, it's a Glover's needle. But obviously there's a million different sizes of needles that you can buy. Gosh, I've seen so many people use different ones. I usually use a size 4 or 5. This is a size 4 that I'm using right now. It's pretty tiny, but I like it. It doesn't feel like it's too much needle to handle. I've heard people use size 3, and I've heard people use size 8. So whatever you prefer. Like I said, as long as it's a Glover's needle, it's usually pretty good. John James is the brand that I buy.
The biggest thing I think that I find is it's not a river runs through it, right? Like I would love to be dry fly fishing year round. Sure, right, as a dry dropper combo, that's my go-to. I do catch some on the dries, but I feel like it's mostly the thing that's successful. What do you guys think? Mostly nymphs, wet flies, what do you guys mostly fish with?
Spiders.
Spiders? Bluegill fishing then? Yeah. Anybody else? Mouse, yeah, well, yeah. A little bit different style, right? But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, basically in Michigan we've got, you know, if you want to dry fly fish, if you want to be crazy, technically speaking, we got midges that start in December, right? So that's pretty cool. You can, on a good warm day, you'll see midges coming off. But really, I think it starts with DWO hatch, right? I mean, that's one of the first things that come in, and those are pretty safe flies, pretty simple to tie as well. Possum, if you guys ever do a RS2, which is one of my comfort flies in the spring, these guard hairs right here actually do a really good job on the back, on the tail. So they're stiff, they're relatively stable, and unlike deer hair, it's not as hollow, so it doesn't just cave in, right? If you ever try and tie an RS2, which is a basic emerger, this stuff is going to hold for it quite well. And yeah, I love possum as far as what we use it for, because this whole thing has all sorts of different textures and stuff like that.
I also do a lot of leech fishing, and that's something that I really like pearl strips for,
and wrap. That's one of my comfort flies. It's a slump buster. If you also been to the booth, you've probably heard me talk about the slump buster because it's made with strips of either squirrel or rabbit, just come right from the back of it. It's the basic zonker pattern, right? If y'all have ever fished with zonkers, this is going to look pretty familiar if you kind of zoom in. Most of what's available commercially are pine squirrel. I swear by fox squirrel. This is one of those go-tos. They're everywhere here in Michigan. You can't look outside without typically seeing one of these guys. Tail's really good, belly's really good, and the guard hairs make for those strips as well. So there's all sorts of stuff that we can use off of these that you're not always going to see the fox squirrel available, but it does a heck of a job as far as something that's readily available. And I do have the dubbing available if you guys want to check that out. It's a real buggy pattern. Leaving some of the guard hairs in, it does have an undercoat to it, so it makes for really good dubbing material, but it's also something that has a lot of hairs that stay off of it quite a while. So you can get some really buggy patterns, much like the hairs are all of the basics that you need to put together your own flies. But a lot of stuff that you can get in kits, you're gonna have all sorts of options. You'll see I have 3 pair of scissors right here, including one set of bandage scissors. Good pair, sharp pair of scissors is like the backbone of flying. If anyone has ever tried to cut hair with a dull pair of scissors, which if you want to try this right, you'll do that job, it's pretty miserable, right? If you're talking about needing precision to get, I don't know, these 3 hairs off, and you hit it with the banded scissors, which you know what? Let's do it for funsies. It's just gonna fit. It's gonna bend the hair. Nothing's coming off of here. Pretty much, right? Sharp pair of scissors. These are just waspy scissors right here. Relatively inexpensive, like $10 or something like that for a pair of these. They will cut through just about anything you need, and they hold an edge for quite a while. This is an old set. You can see they're pretty well worn. I use these now just as like a backup set. I like to have at least 2 pair with me because you never know when you're going to hit something you don't necessarily want to cut with a good sharp pair. Hide is one of those examples, right? If you get rabbit strips, those typically come in sets that you need to trim. It's not going to be like a perfect set no matter what for the fly that you're trying to cut. So having a little bit double pair of scissors and old pair of scissors around really quite helpful. We also have the bobbin holder. And this is one of those where they make them with ceramic implants as far as like what will actually hold your bobbin. And I'm sorry, let me back up even further. The bobbin is just what holds the thread, right? If anybody sews, it's exactly the same thing that goes on top of the sewing machine, except for fly fishing, we use mostly what's called wax thread. So you want stuff that's going to hold up, that's going to get a good bite on the hair. If you use traditional sewing stuff, it'll work, right? And especially if you've never tied before, it's a really cheap entry point. You can get a set of like a dozen, probably, very cheap sets of thread from Walmart. It'll get you through, right? But as fish start to bite at stuff that you're tying, you're going to notice pretty quick that your hair is going to slip. You're going to have stuff that's going to come out, and so that wax thread really helps. The other thing as well is there's a lot of different diameters of thread. Probably a little hard to see from there, but this is a pretty thin thread. Goes thinner than this. The thinner it is, the easier it is to bite down as well, right? You can pull tension, it can really help as well. Thicker thread, when you're talking about tying on like a number 2 or something like that, it's going to help, right? Because you can get better coverages.
Out there 22 air gun shooting deer.
Yeah.
I still stick at 35 or larger. States will vary. Some states consider a big bore 30 cal. I consider a big bore starting at 35.
Gotcha. Do you see like a lot of trappers starting to use these for
Not trappers that
dispatching?
decide to come here to. We work with the outdoor,
Okay.
drive outdoor guys a little bit, getting them involved with it. Here more on the predator hunting side. I can see trappers using it, testing when they're in urban areas, rural.
Yep.
You know, maybe inside. These are really nice and quiet. A lot of them you can turn the power down, so if you're in barns, you're not blowing through the tin. So that's a whole lot there. So trappers are outdoorsmen.
Yep.
You know, if you want to dispatch your animal, there's a thing with a trapper. You don't want a big wound.
Yep.
You don't want damage to the height. So you can take a little guy like this, where this little stock pops off. It's just a little handgun.
Yep.
You can have your backpack, get up to your critter, bring it back up, you're done, and nobody around here's it.
Yep.
Why? So efficient.
And then for people, if they're interested, is it easy enough to have these like shipped?
Yes.
Is it like a FFL kind of? Okay.
These are air guns, and both states are still over the counter. You got states like Illinois, New York, I think California. A few states have restrictions, but we just kind of follow those best we can.
Yeah.
End user knows their laws. I can't keep track very long.
Yep.
There. So, but yeah, it's shipped. Kind of our generic name, so it goes out, high pressure pneumatics. You see a label, it does a screen gun on it, so that's a nice thing.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Is it like signed for when it shows up type?
we can do
type
that.
box? Okay.
A lot of times, we follow the customer a lot of times, depending on the area we see too.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want a signature on it? Some guys are, no, I know my UPS or my FedEx guy, they know where to put my stuff.
Yep.
Or a tank. Most of these will fill from 3,000 to 4,500 PSI, so your factory or your shop compressor isn't going to do it. So the fill options to make personal compressors, and we have some of these samples on our table. The compressor will plug into a 110 wall outlet or your vehicle battery to fill cylinders, or you can do a 4,500 PSI tank that you can have filled, now top the guns off. So that fills faster. The compressors are going to take 5, 6, 7 minutes to top the gun off. So big bores, like this little guy right here, that's newer this year. This generates up to 700 foot-pounds of energy. Throwing a piece of lead out there pretty hard. So
What caliber?
this one is 457, and the Tex Rex brush guns, they do 457 and 50 cal, which is a 510 die. If you go to their Tex Rex standard, you can do 308, 457, 510. If you do the standard Texan, which is a little less power, 257, 308, 357,
Right.
457, 510. So a lot more calibers. Other manufacturers like Umrex makes a hammer. The air gun thing is a lot larger than what a lot of people think. It's pretty new to everybody.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So there's, I think right now up to a 78 caliber that AEA does.
Yeah.
So big chunks of lead going out there.
What's the weight of the bullet and the speed of 45?
It really depends. This guy really likes the 260 grainers. We got some of those sitting on the table, and I believe that's about 950 foot-pounds of energy. So, and at 50 yards, it's basically a ragged hole. At 100 yards, it's still sub-MOA. That's one thing with a lot of these guns. There are ways to tune them. These have a power adjustment on it. Other guns will have hammer spring adjusters, how hard that's hitting that valve. So the one thing with pesters, like that little guy would be good for backyard squirrel hunting. Very quiet, low enough power that you're not going to be blowing through the steel roofing on a farm or anything, allowing you to turn down even lower. Quietness is a big thing for the hunters, squirrel hunters, rabbit hunters. You're getting multiple shots when they're out there, so you don't hear it.
All right, we are here at day 2 of the Michigan Trapping Convention. A little bit of time left. Let's see what all we can find and who to talk to. Is there any movement on coyotes that you see?
There is some activity on coyotes, yes. Good coyotes. You get out of that good coyote, you get out of the number 1 and number 2, they're virtually worthless still, okay? But good number 1s and number 2s, there is a market being driven by them right now. They are coming back. It's not leaps and bounds. But on good prime coyotes, good Michigan Eastern coyotes, you can see $15, $18 average on number 1s and number 2s. That's better where it was. A year ago, I was $12 tops. So currently today, I'm saying we could see $16, $18 averages on Eastern coyotes. But that means good prime stuff, okay? No rubs, prime season. Yes, there is a lot of activity. There's some activity on coyotes. So.
And some people are expecting muskrats to follow mink. Do you see that as probable?
We really thought that they would follow stronger than they did this year, but it's still a lot going on with the shipping and the paperwork, the shipping overseas and stuff like that. For cost of muskrat, they want to purchase it with the cost of shipping and the paperwork and everything included. So unfortunately to the trapper, you know, as dealing overseas direct, we have to absorb that cost in. If that cost wasn't absorbed in, we'd see $5 rats right now, okay? We're still sitting around that $4 average on rats. Yes, we do think very soon that market is going to increase. We don't know if it's going to increase heavily, but it's increased by over $1 to $1.50 in the last year.
Yeah.
So that's good right there. So everything is still continuing forward. Yes, we do feel the rat market is going to increase, but starting this season, we're not going to risk our pocketbooks that it is going to. We still have to buy based on where the current market says it's at, you know. So obviously we take a big risk. You know, the buyer takes a lot of risk. So if that answers that question. Yeah, answer it?
Yes.
All right, what else we got?
How's the raccoon market?
Increasing. Same thing. There is interest in coon. They're gaining ground. There's more interest in them, but again at a price. There's the two biggest articles is the coyote and the coon. There is interest. They do want them. They do need them. But again, those are the two things that are most price sensitive. You know, again, good fur, even on an off season. Prime fur and good fur will always sell. Properly handled prime goods are always saleable. So, but yes, they do need coon. They are wanting coon. We do expect that market to climb also. So, and we think that's going to continue forward. So.
Not small ones? Coon?
What's that?
Not small coon?
No, I would stay away from anything under an extra large. You know, extra large to 2X is quite a common coon. That good prime to extra large coon is actually a very pretty coon. That is some of the best coon. You know, it's that prime time teenager life. You know, not all fat and you know carrying all that extra weight and stuff. But no, the extra large coon and up, it'd be a straight run. So.
When would you say the prime coon would be? Say
Mid-November. Opening day deer season. Of course, right? Yeah. Mid to late November is when they're right there in that small window is when they prime up. And remember, coon go downhill fast. They go downhill faster than they do prime up. So by mid-December, January, depending on the weather, by mid-December, January, they're already going the other way and they can go fast. So unfortunately, we got the Mother Nature to deal with on that. So get ready, get out there, November 12th, November 15th. A slate coon is still a good coon, you know, but a blue leather coon is definitely out. You know, you get them right in that transition. It only takes about a 2-week window for a coon to go from 0 to prime, okay? So you get that slaty coon, you're still on the right direction of good coon.
You're saying the primeness or whatever. So many people say Thanksgiving. So is it a Michigan thing? Iowa coon? Wisconsin coon?
Yeah, it's just, rule of thumb, Thanksgiving is about the time they're all saying they should be fully primed. So you back up to November 15th, just what I said.
Okay.
About right there is you should be hitting everything just about right. Yep. What else?
Cat price is gonna stay where they're at?
Yes, strong, very strong. Cat market is through the roof right now. It was even higher in March, it did settle down in June. But cat market remains very stable. We just got off the phone, big meeting with a broker Monday, and we are looking to put structures together, but basically very similar. And I can tell you right now, I did pay 600 plus on cats out of the UP last year in Michigan. So yes, the cat market is good. So get after the cats.
What would you say is like your biggest animal that you guys are looking for this year for like inventory?
We buy everything. We have markets for everything. So that's the biggest thing I was going to say towards the end of this. I'm telling everybody to go after 100% mixed bag. You know, don't be shy to, you know, keep that coon that's on your coon line. Don't pass up a set per red fox. Go ahead and throw some coyote sets out. I would recommend going after everything. You know, we've seen not too many people were sitting wild mink when that went through the roof in March. It was too late for wild mink. Most people had sold them, you know, already by then last year. So, and look what happened. They went through the roof. They went from $10 average to $45 average overnight. So you just don't know. You never know. We are gonna be offering some new marketing strategies on myself this year, especially with the cats, stuff like that. Mink, large quantities of mink. So just get after everything. It's looking very promising. So we've seen it at all the conventions so far this year. Used traps, coon traps, mink traps, everything is going off the shelf. You know, with the price of new traps, everybody's wanting to get back out, go after the coon and mink and stuff. So we're seeing a lot of sales. Sales are really good on used stuff after those articles. So, yep, we're looking for quantities of everything. So,
a little bit inexperienced beaver trapper. I've got a bunch of beaver that I never put on a round because I've never done it before and I haven't gotten that far. They're flushed and in the freezer. Is that okay, or do they need to be on the round for you guys?
You mean
stretched out and dry?
No, we buy them in the grease.
Okay.
We at my shop we will buy in the carcass. We will buy skinned out just in the grease, or we will buy stretched and dry.
Well, mine are fleshed and rolled back up.
So the scraping part's done. They just got to be put on boards and scraped or stretched out. Yep, we buy them that way.
I just haven't done the stretch.
Right. Nope, we buy them that way right there. It's absolutely fine. So, all right.
I just didn't want to get it wrong, you know, stretch them wrong.
I'll tell you right now, you can't, this is a good time to practice and learn because the hatter market is just as strong, almost as strong as the good quality heavy winter shearable goods, okay? So if you put a couple holes in it, you're still gonna get good money. I just bought 30 some in my trailer just a little bit ago, stretched and dried. They ain't perfect, they're just late spring beaver, they're all hatters, $29 a piece, right there in the trailer. Okay, what else?
What's your opinion on holding fur, like to the end of the season, like the April sale we do in Gaylord every year versus
last year
sale in Claire?
We don't have a crystal ball, okay? We deal direct overseas with China. Here's a little story. I sold 2,000 mink 3 weeks before the March auction. I sold them for $20, straight through. Okay? The March auction hit, I was sitting in the room at North Bay, they hit a $45 average. I turned to my partner, I said, what did you tell me to do? He said he thought we better sell early. He said, you're not happy with Mary? I said, no, I'm not. So I left well over 10,000 on the table like that. So we don't have the crystal ball either. Last year's theory in the country was get your fur processed, sell early, okay? Because we've seen it before. You know, February, March was a good time to sell, get it gone, and as the spring progressed, well, it went the opposite way. It went the opposite way. We don't have any magical, you know, we don't have that crystal ball to give us every bit of the answer. Right now, we have a better handle on it. I wouldn't necessarily say sell early, but I wouldn't wait. If you're getting offered a fair price, whether it's from me, whether it's from Grunwald, or you want to ship to the auction, you ship to the auction, you're out of, you have no control on your fur. If you're getting, maybe sell a couple times a year. You know, we come through here in December and January, maybe sell part of your stuff then. Maybe take a little risk, you know. We've done it both ways. We've sat on stuff till the very end and it went downhill.
Great question. The route that you, the local routes that you run and stuff, what's the pricing on rebuying fur there versus buying fur at the auction? Is it close?
I've had some times where at a Michigan auction, I've bought fur at the Michigan auction for less than I'm paying on the road or at my door. I've also had times before where I paid a little more at the auction. Typically, we do pay a touch more at the auctions, you know, because you got 6, 7, 8 guys. It's competition, okay? So typically there's a little bit more, but remember, we're also putting our money into the organization, you know, so we're willing to put a little bit of the proceeds and our commissions that we pay towards the organizations. So, you know, we're willing to push that market a little bit to also help the organizations out and support.
And on your website, I sent my email on your website or on your list today. Does that tell the routes and when they're going to be there?
Yes, it will. It comes out with a full page. It'll be what we call it is our 2026-27 run, and that will include Northern Lower is where I always start. I start in Kinross, Sault Ste. Marie, or St. Ignace, and then I go down to Atlanta, or Sheboygan, Atlanta, Alpena, West Branch, and Clare. That's my Northern Lower run. Typically, I run that just before Christmas, okay? Typically, for some reason, I've always done that. My home people, get you some money for Christmas. Everybody seems to like it. My UP route is, I move that over to January and also Wisconsin. So I run 9 stops in Wisconsin, 3 days up there, and 2 full days in the UP. So, which there's a bunch of them. But when you are on the email list about November, you will get a route schedule from me. It's 2 to 3 pages typically. And it will show the entire route for December and January for the UP, Northern Lower, the UP, and Wisconsin. It will show all stops, locations, times, and everything. So,
how do you get on that list?
We have a tablet right down there. You just write your name, address, telephone number, and email, and we will send your email when around mid-November. We usually send it out for the route schedule because I got to see where all the shows are, exactly what weekends and stuff like that. But it's right down there, right next to the lures and baits that we have down there on our table. It'll be right there. The whole staff knows where it's at, so you can stop in and add right to it. What else?
Deer hides?
Deer hides, yes. Deer hide market remains very strong. We might see a slight increase in deer hides again this year. I do buy deer hides on the road.
How much is a typical deer hide nowadays?
If you just brought it in, rolled up, and frozen, I think we were paying $8-9 a piece last year. And we also do trade for gloves on the road or at the shop. So we trade. We've got some deer hides. We trade 1 deer hide for 1 pair of gloves. We do have some better quality deer hides, or better quality gloves where it's 2 deer hides for a more premium pair of gloves. So we do offer all that.
What salt do you prefer to put on the hide?
The fine stock salt. You can buy it at Tractor Supply. It's just white, fine stock salt. Comes in a 40 or 50 pound plastic bag. About $8, $9 a bag.
Okay.
Yep, and that'll do about 8 deer.
Okay.
Yep, you want to figure, we figure about 8 pounds of salt per deer hide. So you want a solid layer of salt over the entire skin of the deer. And you can just keep one right after another. Skin side up. If they're outside, cover them with a tarp. Don't let the rain wash that top one of salt off, but just one right after another. You can put them right on a pallet. Stack them right up.
Not salt to salt, fur.
Hair to skin, hair to skin. That way, the one, when you're salting, you don't have to flip it over nothing. Just put another one right on top of it.
Okay.
If it's warm weather, let them cool down just a little bit. Don't stack 10 hot hides on the pile. They will go bad. They will slip. What else?
Skunk market?
Skunk market remains strong. Currently today, I was just at North Bay in June. I bought 4,300 skunks at North Bay. They averaged about $24. So today to the trappers, I'm paying on a $40 basis for number 1 skunk tails. 40, 20, 10, and 5. That is for the complete skunk. So if it's without the body, it's $10 less. So, and we cut out a number 4 grade. So.
Yeah.
So the tails is only 10?
What's that?
The tails are only 10, you say?
No, the whole skunk.
Yeah.
We buy on basically 3 grades. I'm going to cut 1 grade out in the whole thing. So the whole stretch to dried skunk with a white tail is $40.
$40.
Your number 2 cut is $20, and your number 3 cut is $5 to $10 with the body. If you have a bad skunk, and we have some guys that are just cutting off the tails because they don't want to skin the skunk and go inside, the wife makes them strip their clothes off because they stink like hell. So some guys are just cutting the tail off, selling just the tail. It's $10 less without the body. So it'd basically be 30, 10, and 2.
Are you still taking summer tails?
The summer tails, as long as they are good, full, and complete white, but much harder grade. They gotta have good long hair. They yield on a summertime, a true dead summertime tail does not yield, and they slip very easily because the leather is blue and the follicles pull right out. So the yield on a summertime skunk tail did not work out in the market, and I did not know that last year when I blew the market up on the skunk tail market. It was a lesson learned even to us. So, you know. What else?
Castor and essence.
Yep. Buying everything, buying all the castor, buying all the essence. The castor market has just stabilized. It started to trickle up a little bit. 2 years ago it was down to 20, 25 bucks a pound. We currently right now are paying 30 to 35 bucks a pound for good number 1, number 2 castor. So skunk essence to the trappers, I'm doing $10 an ounce right now. There's a lot of skunk essence out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple thousand ounces for anybody
number
wants.
1 and number 2 castor.
What's that?
I pull up a bunch of castor and I don't know the difference between the
Number 1 is great big full plump solid pods.
Yep.
Number 2s usually are the later ones. They've milked out already. They're a little flatter, a little smaller.
Gotcha.
Pretty loose margin there. And then your number 3 are completely, some empty. They're flat. They shrivel up next to nothing. There's just nothing there. Okay. What else?
What was your coon prices? I don't think you went through that.
I don't really throw out coon prices, but
Okay.
if I was today, on an average, a good Michigan run coon with some good prime coon, it's so hard because one guy knows what prime this is. Some others, no discrepancy here, but somebody may not know what a good prime run coon is. I'm going to say a good run of Michigan coon will probably be buying on about a $15 basis on the top end. Could be, you could have anywhere between a $6 and $9 average. So the better the run, the closer to 9 you're going to be. A lower run could be down to 5 or 6. Okay. We are still an eastern coon. We do not have a good coon. Let's face it. So it is what it is. If you've seen the difference between an Iowa coon and a Michigan coon, you'd see why. Big difference.
How small do you say no more on those coons?
27 inches. Nothing below a 27-inch coon. It's not worth your time. I bought a lot of coon.
A lot of small coons.
Yep, they're 50 cents, 25 cent, 50 cent coon. If you want to work for that, go ahead, but I'm not gonna. And it's not worth your time to do either.
Color is, we get that yellow on our coons.
Yes. Unfortunately, the yellow
Is that the
hurts.
difference between us and Iowa?
What's that?
Is that the difference between us and Iowa?
Oh, big time. Yeah. There's not a tinge of yellow in Iowa. We have a lot of rust colored, a lot of yellow in our coon. That's why. And in certain areas of Michigan are worse. You know, the east side of Michigan is a whole lot worse than that than the west side. We actually get some very beautiful coon out of up by Grand Rapids, Grand Haven, South Haven, up in there. We see some very nice coon out of there. There's also a pocket of them, believe it or not, right up by Hastings. There's a really nice pocket of coon up in there, really good color and everything. So believe it or not, just in the state, we can see little locations and areas where we see better coon. We really do.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Is that because of like genetics? Is it crops? Is it, what is it?
It's probably a combination of everything. Nobody's really analyzed to know exactly. You know, on the east side of the state, you got more ditches, you got more water, you got more of that playground over there that tends to be that reddish color. A lot of people feel it's the ground, it's the dirt, you know. You get into southern Michigan, into the swamps, we got a lot of darker, mucky ground. We see a lot more, typically, quite a bit of that darker color coon, dark and silver. But up there, like I said, in Hastings area, you got that sandy ground up there, and for some reason, that's where we see it. Those sandy ridges, those oak trees, beechnut trees, crops up in there, we're not as much over there. So that's what we kind of feel. It's kind of a combination of everything. Okay. What else? Squirrels. Squirrels. Yes, I'm still buying squirrels, stretched and dried, deboned, and the tail split open. So yes, we're buying box squirrels, gray squirrels, and black squirrels, and pine squirrels. Very minimal damage. I recommend shooting with either like a pellet gun or a BB gun, or a pellet gun, or 410 from a distance, because you shoot them with a 22 hole, you got a dime size hole, they're damaged. So it's not worth the tanning on them. So yes, we are looking for squirrels. I typically, as a lot of you do know, I typically was buying chipmunks, pine squirrels or red squirrels, and ermine in the carcass. I do not know at this time if I'm going to continue with that market or not. Just, I ain't been paid for last year's yet, and I knew it was going downhill, so I'm not going to keep supplying a guy when he doesn't want to pay for them. I'm one of the only ones that was buying them that way. And also be very careful with the skull market. The skull market is going away fast. So, same guy ain't paid for all the skulls that I sold last year either. So, I don't know if we're going to mess with the skull market this year. Just, you wouldn't put something into something that you can't sell, would you? So, I don't know if we're going to do it.
Yourself.
Huh?
You're better off to take your own skulls and get the flush.
For you or anybody, yes, go ahead, if you want to boil them out. So, but, you know, we do get enough of our own skulls, because we do sell skulls at the powwows and stuff. So what we do get, we save our own. You know, we've got a guy that does them, so I don't even need to buy them per se to supply myself. Other than specialty skulls. You know, the real special ones like Martin, Fisher, stuff like that. But I buy those out west, the auctions out there, so we can buy them because there's no limits out there. So Bobcat skulls, we will buy some Bobcat skulls, but again, you're allowed to go up 1 or 2 cats here, whatever it is. So, and a lot of the guys, you know.
Keep skull anyway.
Yep. Now, some guys were getting cat and otter skulls back. The DNR was giving them one in exchange. Not their exact own, but I did hear the DNR was giving them a skull back, because under regulations, they did say it is a trophy animal, and the trapper should be entitled to his trophy skull.
Got mine back.
There you go. So, proof right there. So, you know, but they have found a loophole, but it sounds like you've got to just kind of ask for it or be a little firm with them. Hey, it is my trophy. I trapped it. I want a skull back. So, all right. Don't drag me in the middle of that one. All I did was said something. All right. What else?
Good month to trap skunk.
What's that?
Good month to trap skunk.
As soon as you can start trapping them in October. Yep. Skunks start furring up a little before everything else. So because they hibernate, they want that good heavy coat on them. So you can start hitting skunks. There's some good skunks to be here in September. You know, you just got to kind of look at them. If they don't feel like there's much hair on them, then they're a flat skunk. But if they got some nice long hair and it looks good and full, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. What else?
Would you like to comment on where the muskrats went from?
The muskrat market, we feel, is going to advance.
No,
It's
I mean,
just,
why don't we have any muskrats? St. John's Marsh, all that.
I personally, my opinion, and what I've heard many of it is pesticides. We're killing off a lot of rats with farm pesticides, okay? The other thing, 30 years ago when I was trapping, we never seen eagles. We never seen a lot of red-tailed hawks. They're everywhere now. You know, we've got a lot more otter today than we used to have way back then. So it's a variation of many things, but a lot of people feel it's a pesticides. Indiana is doing a very heavy investigation on the pesticides. At the fur auction in Indiana, they actually have biologists right there taking tissue samples out of muskrats and off the skin. So, and they are finding it is pesticides.
Well, it has steel seawalls and everything else. There's no natural bank.
What's that?
Steel seawalls and that.
Yep.
Along the river channels and all that.
A little bit of that stuff. Yep. All that stuff has a difference to do with it. So, yes.
What are some of like the biggest things you're looking for when you're buying muskrats? Like just some practical advice for people who are putting up their own fur. Like what are you looking for as a buyer?
Muskrats are probably the simplest thing to buy. You know, they're for the size of muskrat and how easy they are to skin, damage is typically very minimal. Okay, so just good marsh muskrats and stuff. We have some of the best rats in the United States. New Jersey, the Montezuma rat, the Michigan rat, and Wisconsin rat are the heaviest and some of the best rats that are sought after, especially the heavier winter rats. So, you know, we do have a good rat. We've got a market that specifically wants to buy my rats that I harvest from, or buy from you trappers, because it is a very strong, it's all Michigan rats basically. Michigan, northern Indiana, Wisconsin. So I run routes through all them, so we get all those rats. So basically, it's just Michigan happens to have one of the best rats out there. So what else?
The beaver. A lot of guys say, well, I don't even bother the beaver till the spring because that's when they're priming best. What's your opinion on that? Do they start priming up in December, January?
They do, but a lot of guys don't like to go out and bust ice and be out there on the thin ice or whatever the weather may throw at us. With the hatter market, get out there after them in November when it opens. Get after them. Like I said, a year and a half ago when the market fell, the hatter market went down to $7.50, $8 a pound. Okay, today it's at about $16 a pound. So it's double what it was a year and a half ago. I mean, it tanked fast a year and a half ago. So 2 years ago it climbed like a rocket. It tanked right back down in the late spring, then it picked right back in. Because 2 years ago there was such a harvest, everybody in the world went after them because the market was high. Then they flooded the market out, drove the price back down. But then they realized a year and a half ago they hit them so hard the year before, the harvest was not there. So that started bringing the price back up. The North Bay typically just had 35,000, wasn't it, Rick? 35,000 this last sale. The less than 1 year ago, they had like 56,000. So that much of an increase. Supply was down, way down. Demand is way up. Harvest is way up. Demand goes down. So it's like everything. So, but right now, the beaver harvest is still low. A lot of guys, they have been hit very hard over the last few years. The beaver, the harvest is down quite a bit on them. So there's not as many beavers as there was. So in some areas, there are still some. So what else?
Anything to do with the beaver tails anymore? Is that still flooded?
We're still working on it. Everybody's so busy, and remember, there's no help out there. I mean, I don't care what business it is, tannery, me, some of these business, you know, people here, there's no help out there. We're buried with everything we can do. Some stuff has to be set aside for a minute to work on until we can get some workforce back in the world. We see it everywhere you go, guys, ladies, all of you. So gas stations, help wanted everywhere you go. Places only open to eat certain times. There's no help out there. So it's the same thing. It's a domino effect. There's just no help out there. So, you know, the beaver tail market, I'm heavily involved in one. We are trying to work on it. They had to push it away because it's actually a deer hide tannery, major tannery in the U.S. that is working with me on the beaver tail leather market. We do have beaver tail leather for sale. On the first batch that I did get done, we do have a current another batch there supposed to be done. I don't know, another 800 and some more pieces. But we do have a surplus of it right now. So we are selling tanned beaver tail leather right now. But for you to take your beaver tail and bring it to me, we're not doing that yet. Okay? What else?
Anybody shearing beaver yet?
No, no shearing in the United States. Only one place in Canada, and we can't get stuff there to shear. So it's a long ways around. We can get it done, but we got to go through way through the back door to have it done. So we do have some plucked and sheared beaver down here, yes. So.
Are you taking beaver oil sacks aside from that sacks?
We are. We do buy beaver oil sacks. Yep. They're I think it's 10, 12 bucks a gallon. So not really worth the time, and I got a lot of oil sacks. So yeah. If the K9 market was a lot better, and there was predator for coyotes specifically talking, if the coyote market was a lot stronger, and coyotes were worth some good money, we'd have a better beaver tail oil market. Because that's what most of the beaver oil, sack oil and sacks go for, is the lure market. So, okay. What else?
What are the most like common defects when people bring it to the truck? What do you say? Like self-inflicted from the trapper themselves? Yeah, just in general.
It's really hard to say on that. You know, a lot of people with YouTube out there today, there's so many ways that people can see how to preserve fur. You know, proper ways to roll it up into the freezer and stuff. So probably the biggest thing, like on the spring beaver season, when we're buying greased beaver, even Grinwald, it doesn't matter. When you're buying greased beaver, number one, you don't know how long some of these trappers have. You know, in Wisconsin, they got a 2-day check. So a beaver gets in a drowning set and it floats up the surface. Now there's a spot of the back sitting out of the water this big. The sun comes out, beats down on it, guy skins it out, it's totally fine. But by the time we get it, pull it out of the freezer, it takes 2 days to thaw. Quite often we'll see that spot slip. Well, this one, you know, sun, it could be the TS85 getting a high catch or stuff like that. When we buy greased beaver, we have to buy, I don't care if it was from 20 of the best trappers that I know are taking care of it, right? We still have to have a margin of error because some beaver can go in with a heavy shearable beaver, which I have a market for. So some of those can go into the heavy shearable, but the minute we find a slip spot or a hole that was covered up by fat that we couldn't see, or it was sold to us frozen, we can't see that until we've got it out to thaw or process. So when we're buying in the grease, we do have to have, that's why some people, well, you know, there's $10 difference between putting it up. Well, that's because I'm willing to pay you the $10 of labor to put it up, and if you do everything perfectly right, you're going to probably see more than that in return of you scraping it. But when we scrape it, okay, if you take an extra large shearable, that beaver's worth 35, 38 bucks, but all of a sudden we get into, we find a slip spot or a big knife cut, somebody cut it, you just went from $38 down to $15, $16 beaver. So when I'm buying in the grease, we have to allow for a fine line that it could go either way. You know, although we still have to push it because some guys just don't care, you know, but there is that margin that we try to learn to buy with, you know. So that's probably the most common thing that we see that's really tough is buying the beaver, okay? Because they just don't thaw quick. So. All right. But yeah, just overall in general, I'm telling everybody, go out, have a great trapping season, get the kids out there, grandkids, kids. We can't stress it enough. We're losing ground with the families and the kids all the time, especially kids. That's my biggest pet peeve. Anybody in this organization, I've put in a lot of financial money, a lot of supplies. I've donated to organizations in state, out of state, everything. I'm doing as much as I can for these organizations. Trying to get kids camps going, everything like that. So get the kids out there, enjoy getting after stuff. Do your part, you know, help save this tradition. It's going away, and a lot of people don't realize how fast it's going. So just in the 20 years I've been active in the fur buying and stuff, it's nowhere near the same as what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, nothing. So
I'm a fur buyer and a fur seller. Hardly sell anything already, raw.
Yep.
I go to the auctions, Michigan, Indiana, buy the furs, send them out to a couple different tanneries, and I get them back and I sell them to market. Some people use it for clothing. Some people use it just for decor to hang. I sell some Native Americans who use it for traditional celebrations and outfits. The biggest market or biggest sales platform was Etsy for years.
Yeah, and I
did 9 years, 800 sales, 5-star rating, and as of 2 days ago, Etsy will no longer allow fur sales.
Yeah.
So as soon as they announced it, I started building up my website, which is www.burtsfurs.com. Obviously, I don't have 57 million people who are coming to it.
Yep.
So, that's a
Yeah. So you do that, and then also the baits and whatnot on there as well.
This more as a hobby, just trying to make my own baits and trying some different things, and they were working so good. I thought, well, what the heck, So my biggest customers are the guys I sold to last year.
Yep.
They come back and they go, hey, I don't remember which one I bought. This is what it was for, and I go, oh, is this one? And they'll smell it. They go, yeah, that's the one. It worked great,
Yep.
But like the other guys, they've been in business for years, so they have reputations, and they're well known. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's just, I'm not making money, and I'm just having fun. So,
Yeah, and with us being in Michigan right now, if someone goes on the site to order pellets or anything since we're in Michigan right now, is there like any stipulations for like shipping the pellets if someone purchases?
I ship all over the U.S. and Canada. So, even Alaska and Hawaii. Actually, my number one buyer or location, number one state for shipping beavers is Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah, I ship right into the Arctic Circle, Inuit villages that everything has to be flown into. The nice thing is the United States Postal Service has ship anywhere boxes.
Yep.
So it's pretty cheap to get them into those areas.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I see you kind of have like more, I don't know if you call them like specialty furs, but like even like the squirrels and stuff, they look different. Like they're different like qualities of fur that you're offering in comparison.
Not just your traditional furs. Like I think that might be kind of what you're getting at, like your coyote, your fox, your bobcat, or your traditional furs, your muskrats. But yeah, squirrel. We've got one marking up here. Usually have beaver from the tannery. Woodchucks are used in the lure making, not this kind of lure, but fishing lure making for tying flies.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yep. Woodchucks are used for that. Tails on deer. Tails of bees are used. Actually, some of the bodies on just this one because foxglove has a thicker leather.
Yep.
It's a much thinner leather on the black and the gray. So they're not used so much for fishing lures. So there's a market for everything is one thing I've learned.
Yep.
It's just a matter of finding that market and meeting the right people and getting it out. People even buy bones.
Yeah.
It's just if it's out there, it can be sold.
Yep. How long have you been like buying and selling for? What do you say?
7 years.
Okay.
Yep, I got into it as far as trapping. I trapped when I was younger. Got married, had kids.
Oh yeah.
Everything. And then my son, when he was 13, said, "Dad, I want to learn to trap." So the National Trapping Convention was up in Escanaba 30 days after he said that to me. I said,
Yep.
Let's go to the convention. So we went up there, and one thing led to another. And
yep.
now this is what I do. And then I'm also a damage control trapper.
Okay.
So that's what I do for my full-time business is trapping nuisance animals.
Is that like primarily beaver, would you say, is what you run into?
But like this year so far, 115 raccoons. So raccoons are pretty big. Last year, 83 beaver. The beaver just started back up as far as damage control right now because they're starting to prep for winter, so they're building more dams.
Yeah.
Getting feed piles, which means they're chopping down trees. So people are getting a little upset.
Yeah. So is there a specific item you'd say is kind of...
Probably one of the biggest things is the trapper's pole. I make and sell these. They're These are catch poles. A lot of ADC guys and stuff use these, and these are dispatch poles.
Okay.
So for coyotes, bobcats, raccoon, anything like that.
And then these are different than these guys, it looks like.
They work the same, it's just they have a different design handle. It's just kind of a personal preference.
Gotcha. A
Whatever
little
you
easier
prefer.
to grip for some
Yeah.
people compared to that
Yeah.
one. Or Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have lures and whatnot as well.
I make these. These are the ones I make. The baits and lures.
Mhm.
These are all the stuff that would be good for raccoon, skunk, groundhog, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Coyote and fox for most of these. Bobcat. And these are the different lures.
Okay.
So we've got lures for beaver, coyote, whatever you want, fox, bobcat.
Yeah. And what do you say? There's like, do you have a favorite out of them? What do you say, or?
It kind of depends. A lot of it changes due to like what time of season it is. Like this, my Predator Blues bait I like to use when it's early, like kind of still warm outside, might be in the 70s.
Yep.
Because it's a mild bait. But when it gets down to, 30, 20, even colder, I like to use the Deadly Highway 71 because it's a lot stronger smell. It's what you would call like loud bait. And that smell just, if it snows or something, that smell's going to go through the snow and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's good for that. And then with like lures, you got your gland lures, your curiosity lures, food lures. So it kind of depends on what kind of set you're going to make or what time of year
Yeah.
it is. So.
And for people, if they're looking to purchase anything, is it usually just in person, or do you have like
Yeah, I have a
shipping
website.
or anything as well?
Yeah, Blakeley'sTrapping.com is my website. That's where I sell most everything. We do, I think this is our 5th or 6th show that we've done this year.
Yep.
We're doing about 8 more. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we
That's
get around
awesome.
a lot. I
Yeah.
try to make it to the most I can.
Yeah.
Next year we'll probably hit it even harder. So.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
What do you say? You have like a favorite by chance of your lure or your bait? What do you?
Depends on what you want to get for it.
Yeah.
Because, you got stuff for basically any predator. Beaver. You can catch skunks with stuff, groundhogs, coon, fox, coyote. And then we throw some of Jim's in there to go with part of it too.
Oh, sure.
So, because I'm not going to make a couple things like him and step on his toes.
Yeah. Yep.
And he don't ship, so on my website, I put some of his stuff on there and I do the shipping. So,
yeah.
it just depends on what you want to get into or somebody else wants to. You could, like beaver tail oil, if they want to go and add it to some meat on their own, or just use it straight as a curiosity thing, they can. We got something I made for Red Fox. I'm going to revamp this one up a little bit.
Yep.
Do it just slightly different. Give it some more fox smell. Because right now there's no glands in it whatsoever.
Okay.
And the new one is going to put some glands in it and see how much different it is. But then we got coyote, bobcat, red fox, but you'll get gray fox in on stuff too. You can, then like the beaver castor and stuff.
Yep.
Every predator loves beaver castor. Raccoons, possum, skunk.
Yeah.
All of them animals. Like if I do ADC bait, I got this one. It's so sweet smelling. You could eat it literally.
Yeah.
I just sold 4 jars or half a gallon to one of the ADC guys from the west side of the state. 2 days ago, a buddy of mine, he sold his business to his nephew. He bought a 4-gallon bucket that I was working on.
Yep.
My plan was to fill more jars up. And I knew he wanted some, so then I showed him the picture of the bucket. Then he goes, well, how much for the whole bucket? I'm like, shit. And I was running out of one of the products to make it. I had enough to make another gallon, but I had one of the suppliers bring me some of that stuff that I needed. Because we're going to make some of our own, but we got to have the time now. We got about a 3-week gap between our next show. Had a guy in Montana, he wants something a bit louder. Their weather's like a lot of northern Michigan, really cold.
Yeah.
And colder. So this one has got some skunk in it. But if it don't smell too skunky right now, you stir it up and it's gonna start getting out there. And then you got a trailing scent for skunk.
Okay.
So you can trail them right in live trees. Like the yellow one is fire, that's basically all skunk.
Okay.
It's put up in, it's not a petroleum base, it's lamb,
Mhm.
which comes from sheep's wool.
Yeah.
So it's all natural. You open that up, it's nothing but skunk.
Mhm.
This one here, Twisted, it's got some skunk in it, it's got some other oils and stuff. It gets loud,
Mhm.
but you can use a little bit of it, and then the next bunch down there, he's got the different gland lures for bobcat, coyote, fox, gray fox, red coyote, and all that.